I'm Carol Smith. Welcome to View and Do VideoCraft Classroom number 12, Advanced PURR-FECT Punch. Now this tape is designed for the advanced puncher. We recommend that you get tape number 11 and look at it for the basics of punch embroidery. In this tape you're going to be learning some advanced techniques such as sculpturing, paint and punch, clipping, brushing, and more. By now you're probably quite proficient at the basics of punch embroidery, and if you've seen tape number 11, you're very familiar with the beautiful things you can make for your home and for your wardrobe. Even the advanced techniques in this tape will become second nature to you with just a little bit of practice. Now, these are the things that we're going to be using in today's video. We're going to use the large and the medium needle, and some of these really gorgeous PURR-FECT Punch yarns. We're also going to be using some fabric soft paint and some dimensional paint. And you'll be sure to want to get the Beyond the Basics of Punch Embroidery by Linda Broman. This is the definitive guide on punch embroidery, and it has the patterns that we're going to use for today's projects. Let's look at one of those. Look at the glitzy sweatshirt, and this is the paint and punch process, and we're going to be learning that and even more techniques in this beautiful framed artwork. There's a number of advanced techniques in here, but we're going to make them all seem very easy. We're ready to get started. The first technique I want to show you is one of the easiest ones. It's called brushing, and here's an example. This cat would not look near as much like a cat if it were not brushed. And we're going to show you how easy it is. Now, first, it's just basic punching. All of this punching was done on a number 3 setting. And as you can see, we have not punched some of the areas. That's because you want to complete all of the areas that you're going to brush before you complete the other areas. Now, we're going to turn it over, and I want to show you what you'll do. After you've completed the punching of those areas, you want to seal it. And we're going to use our Founder's Glue and Wash, and we just we'll put it all over the design. Now, we don't want to get it into the areas that we've still got to punch, but we want to put it all over it. I'm just going to fake it because, of course, it's already on there. You put it all over the design, and then you use your finger to smooth it out and then out onto the fabric so that you know that all those areas are glued down. Now, being careful not to get it in the areas, the eyes and the muzzle that you still have to punch. Now, you need to let this dry for probably a couple of hours. Then we're going to turn it over and start our brushing. Now, we're going to use the brushing tool, and we just start, and you can hold it any way that's comfortable for you, and you just start pulling on it. Now, hold it down with your left hand and really put some pressure on it. You're not going to pull it out because you've glued it down. See, I was putting lots of pressure, knocked my bottle over. Now, you just start brushing it out. And as you can see, it's getting to look like a kitty's ear already. Now you brush in all directions really and kind of pull it up from the surface. Now see how easy that is? If it gets caught, just pull it up. I've turned it a little too vertically. You have to keep it sort of horizontal. Now you just finished combing all the areas that you want to brush. And then when you're all finished and it's all nice and furry, you may want to take your scissors and trim up any areas that got a little bit long or a little bit uneven. Then you turn it back over and complete your muzzle and your eyes and do your overstitching for your whiskers, and you have a finished project that's ready to become an applique. See how easy brushing is? The next project we're going to do is this purple glitzy peacock sweatshirt. And look how pretty it is. It has dimensional paint and fabric soft paint, and we're going to start by getting the pattern out of Beyond the Basics of Punch Embroidery, and there are lots of patterns in there. So we're going to select the peacock, trim it out, and first we're going to pre-wash the shirt. You want to make sure that you get all the sizing and any excess dye out of it so that it's nice and ready to receive the paint. Then we iron on the pattern. You want to be careful that you warm the t-shirt first, then put the pattern down and iron it on a cotton setting for 10 seconds all over the design. And now we're ready to prepare our dimensional paint. We're going to use the Fashion Show Shiny Paint in the white, and we're going to first make a hole in the bottle. So we take the black cover off, and we're going to heat a paper clip. We just use a mitt to hold it like this. Use a lighter. Just heat the tip and stick it into the paint. Now this makes a nice rounded hole so that the paint will be dispensed freely. Now, because these lines are very thin, I'm going to want to make a fine line tip. And it's so easy. Let me show you. You take a piece of cellophane tape that's 3/4 inches wide, and you tear off about a 3.5 to 4 inch piece. Then we hold it up and we put it straight up, the left edge of the tape, straight up. And we just start adhering it to the tip. And notice how I sort of pinch my fingers around the tape right at the end, and I support it while it adheres to itself. Now notice how it turns, reverses directions, and comes back down. Now I have a fine line tip that will make as fine a line as I want. Now I want to shake it down like ketchup, and we want to start outlining. Now notice that I'm holding the bottle in an almost horizontal position. Now I can make my lines. And my dots. We want to do everything that's indicated to be a white line or a white dimensional paint area. Notice how easy it is to put this paint exactly where I want it. And see, I keep it almost in a horizontal position so that I'm making a rounded bead as I come out. And it's easier to pull it towards me. For me it is. You can practice. Practice on a piece of notebook paper till you find out which is best for you. Now we want you to complete all of the outline or dimensional painting, and then you're going to let it dry overnight. Now I've already put the fine line tip on the sequin black metallic dimensional paint, and I'm just going to do the feet with that. I made a little bigger hole by just slanting the tape to the right as I wrapped it around, and that gives me a little bit wider line for my feet. Now we're going to let this dry overnight, and then we're going to paint on our Fashion Show soft paint. Now we've let our dimensional paint dry, and we're ready to do the soft paint. First we're going to take the Fabric Show soft paint. Now this is the crystal glitter, and we're just going to pour a nice big pool of it on our plate. And we're going to paint it on with the Folk Art fabric painting brush. Now this is a brush that has the white bristles, and they're nice and stiff so we can get the paint worked into the fabric. And we're just going to begin painting here, and we're going to paint over the dimensional paint. Now this area here's where our peacock body's going to go. We don't have to paint there. Whoops, doesn't matter though if we get a little bit. Now, even if you're not a painter, you can do this technique because, as you can see, I'm just brushing it on and sort of working it in around the dimensional paint. You might want to kind of go with the direction of the paint. That'll allow you to get it in the grooves a little better. Now this looks white, but we're not putting on white paint. This is just the crystal glitter that's suspended in the medium, and it's a clear medium, so the whiteness is going to go away, and we'll have just that beautiful sparkle. Now we can just paint over the whole thing because all of the tail area is covered in glitter. Now see, it's a little easier if you brush with it. Now if you get it a little bit outside the lines, that's okay, because this is just a real soft blur of glitter. I'm not going to paint this whole area. but I want to give you a little hint that was done on our sample. The eyes of the peacock feathers have been painted twice. So you might want to wait and let it dry or come back, or probably if you paint the whole shirt, by the time you get through, you'll be ready to recoat the eyes. So let me just show you how to do that. Let me put some more glitter on my plate. And now let's come back, and that's within the dots there. We're just going to put a little heavier coating on those. Now we also want to come down here and put an extra coat on the tail feathers that are sticking up above our peacock that's going to be here, our punched peacock body. Here we go. Now we don't do anything but the eyes and the tail, and that will give you a very glittery or a deeper layer of glitter on those areas. Now, you want to wash your brush out, be sure and wash it out in soap and water, and let this dry, and we're ready to glue on our peacock. Now, while our paint is drying, we can proceed with our punch part of our design. Now, I've already begun this one, and I've used the heather yarn, the purple yarn, because that's the one that matches my sweatshirt. If you're using a teal sweatshirt, you'd want to use a teal colored yarn for the outlining. And we've just punched that on a number 1 setting. Then, look how nice and sparkly the wings are. The secret of that is that we've used 2 yarns in our needle. And let's turn it over and I'll show you how easy it is to do that. First, we've used the wicker white acrylic. We've also used the pearl glimmer. And we've threaded them through our needle at the same time. Now, if you have any questions in your mind about how to thread your needle, refer back to your beginner's guide, or look at the View and Do video number 11, or look on the back of your needle package. Now, once you've threaded both threads through at the same time, you'll see that you want to put them on a table spooler so that they won't get tangled up. And one thing we know about using the glimmer is that you want to keep it plenty of slack in your yarn as it comes off your table spooler. So we're just going to hold this up and we're going to begin, and we're going to punch the body of our peacock on a number 3. Now let's do a number 1. Let's roll it back. We're going to start with a number 1 on the edge. We're going to go up to a number 3. So we're going to turn it back to the right and set the needle on a number 1. See, even I get confused. Okay, we're going to start and just go forward. And it's punch, lift, slide, right down beside our purple. Now, it may be hard for you to see this, but we are sewing with 2 threads at one time. Basic punch technique. The yarns are doing the magic and giving it that really glitzy look. That's really all there is to it. We just want to proceed on around. We're going to go do a number 1 around the outside, simple contouring, a number 2, and go up to a number 3, and complete the body of the peacock. Then we're going to use wrought iron to do the beak and the eye. Now our punching is all done and we're ready to complete our project. Let's turn it over and we're going to seal the back, or seal the edges so that it won't ravel out in the washing machine. And we're going to take our glue and wash, and this is going to make it permanent around the edges. We just come and put a bead around the outside row. Actually, we put it right up on it because we're going to smear it out. You've done this before, but we're just going to do it anyway to remind you. You don't need a lot of glue because we are going to actually be gluing it onto another garment or another object. So we put a bead all the way around on the outside row. And we take our finger and we're just going to smear this down on both the fabric and up onto the stitched piece a little bit. You want it out onto the fabric so when you're cutting it out you have no raveling. I like to pull my finger back up onto the stitched piece. That gets it real good because you're cutting right on that sewing edge. So if I use my finger to kind of scoot it back up on the stitching. Now this is certainly easy enough. We're going to let this dry at least 30 minutes before you try to cut it out. So we're just going to put this one aside because I already have one that has the glue on it, and we're going to go ahead with the cutting on it. Now you turn it over, and I like to cut from the back side because this gives me a cleaner edge. We're just going to cut very close to the stitching. And I tilt my scissors towards the center of the piece a little bit, and that helps me not cut my loops on the outside or the underside, which is really the right side. We don't want to mess your stitching up around the edge. Now you do trim away as much of the white fabric as you can because you don't want it to protrude out from under your stitching when you glue it onto the garment. You'll need a real sharp pair of scissors. These are the little Ginger scissors, and they work extremely well. You have to cut up into those feathers on the wing because you don't want that fabric to show. Now I'm pulling the edge of this fabric up a little bit towards me. That helps me just get in that area between the stitching and the back. So I get a nice clean cut. Now you just sort of look and see if you need to trim away any fabric. Now if you have cut a few of the loops, you can just trim those off. Make the line around the outside edge smooth again. Now that looks good. We're ready to put our glue on the back. Let's scoot our shirt over here. Now I like to do this first. Let's trial fit to make sure that we know exactly where we're going to glue it. We want it to go down to the feet. Okay, just to give me an idea before I start and get the glue on it, because then it's too late. Okay, we want to turn this over, and we're going to use our glue and wash now to go around the edge. We're going to put the glue about 1/2 inch all around the outside. 1/2 inch from the edge. And put more glue this time. course, we need more glue on the outside because those are the edges that would be more susceptible to the washing machine as it was agitating. But we don't need as much in the center. So let's just put a big X through the center. That makes sure that our center is glued down. And we're going to turn it over. And put it in place. Now, if you have any areas that you missed with your glitter, you can come back and just add a little bit. Looks like we missed a little bit of the feather over there, but that's easy to fix. Now, you may want to weight it down for at least an hour, and you can just put a couple of magazines on the top of it and weight it down, make sure that it's all glued down. It wouldn't hurt to put some plastic inside. Now, in a sweatshirt, it's very thick, and your glue is probably not going to penetrate through the top layer of fabric. But it might. You just, if you want to be extra careful, put some plastic inside or a shirt board so that you don't glue your front to your back of your shirt. Now, we know that this is glued down, and we want to put on our jewels now, and we're going to use the jewel glue to do that. And this works extremely well, and it's guaranteed not to take the backing off of your jewels. We have 3 sizes. We're going to put large ones out in the outside eyes of the peacock feathers, the medium ones on the next layer, and then the small ones next to the body. We'll just put a dot on there. We can do several at a time. Now, you want enough glue so that when you mash the rhinestone in place, it will push the glue underneath and up around the edges. I'm going to do several rhinestones, and I have them all picked out here. We just turn them over, and we'll put them right on top of our dot of glue and then mash so that the glue comes up around the edge. This helps hold the rhinestone on in the washing machine. Remember to put the large ones. You may not be able to see your pattern or the dot under there, but if you just put it down in the fat part of your eye that you outlined with your dimensional paint, then you'll have it close enough. Now, the jewel glue dries clear, so don't be afraid to let it be obvious or apparent when you mash down, because it will dry clear, and it helps seal on your rhinestone. Put the medium ones on the second layer of eyes. And we'll put small ones next to the body. That's the best part, it's when it's all finished and you're adding the stones. Now, I'm going to let you finish the rest of your eyes, and you want to let it dry, probably overnight before you wear it. Then when you launder it, be sure that you turn the whole project inside out and use a cool setting on your washing machine. And then it wouldn't be a bad idea to hang it to dry, or you can dry it in the dryer if you dry it on a low setting. But it's about ready to wear, isn't it gorgeous? Our next project is this beautiful autumn flower basket. And this again is very easy. There's just some techniques that we need to show you first. Now, you want to pick up the Beyond the Basics of Punch Embroidery because it has your pattern in it. And first thing we're going to do is iron it onto our fabric in the center. And we're working in a wooden hoop here because it's a little larger. Now, we've already started on our flower basket, and basically we've used the basic contouring on the flower basket itself, on the orange flowers, and on the green leaves. Now, we've varied the settings on these, so refer to your pattern and instructions, and it will tell you the settings that we've used, but there's no new techniques in that part. The first advanced technique we're going to learn is on the white flowers, and it actually is using 2 yarns at one time and using the large needle. So let's turn it over, and we're going to show you exactly how to do that. Now, the large needle, of course, has a larger needle portion or metal portion, and it allows the two threads to be pulled through there. So you want to thread your needle. Be sure that if you have any doubts about how to do it, refer to your beginner's guide or to tape number 11. Now we have our needle set on a 4, and that's where we're going to start to go around the perimeter of our flower. Also, the large needle enables us not only to use 2 threads, but to fill faster. Now let's start with this flower, and we'll just go around the outside edge, punching on a 4. We just turn it. Get my thread loose here. Got it hung on my... Now we've finished the first row. We're going to stop and adjust the loop length. We're going to roll it up to a 5 now for the next row. And we're just going to go around this row, and let's make 2 rows going around in the perimeter. And then we can go back and forth because we're going to fill in the rest of the flower with a 5 loop length. And if you can see here, this has just been filled in going across in rows. And again, that saves you a lot of time too, because now that you're an advanced puncher, you're going to want to work even more quickly. So I'm just going to let you fill that in, and I'm going to continue punching here. The next technique we're going to see is the textured stitch, and here are examples of it right here on the front. It really is very much the same as the white flowers that we used, because you use the large needle and you use 2 threads in this dark red color. So let's turn it over, and we see that we have the large needle set on a number 2 setting, and we have 2 strands already threaded through the needle. So we just want to pull this up now, and we're going to, this one is really easy. You're going to like this because it goes really fast. We're just going to punch in a random method, and we're not going to punch really in a line. We're going to go back and forth, and we want to fill in the areas sort of loose. And that's why we use 2 yarns, because we want to cover but not have it be solid. See, I told you this was an easy one. Reminds me of when I first learned to punch. This was about what my straight lines looked like at first. Now when you get down to the orange flower, we just cut the thread. And you just want to continue and finish all the weeds, and there we are. See how nice that looks? It's spaced out a little bit to where it looks rough. It looks seedy. Okay, now finish any of the others that you need to, and we'll go on to the next technique. Now we're ready to try my favorite punch embroidery technique, sculpturing. And I like this because it creates the most dimension of any of the techniques. Now I have already put my highlight color in here, and I used a light brown on a number 7 setting. I used the medium needle, and I've just put one line right through the center of my cattail. And now I'm going to go around the outside. I'm using the hand spooler for my darker color brown, and I'm going to start. I've got my needle set on a size, on a 4 loop length, and we're just going to go around the outside. Now for sculpturing, you want to do a little bit tighter stitching than I've been showing you, because you do want it to be really tight. So we're just going to go around the outside. Now remember, this is on a 4. You turn it so that it'll be comfortable. Now I've gone all the way around, and I'm going to dial up to a number 5 and make a second row inside that one. Now we've gone around and completed our second row, and we're going to dial down to a 6. That gives us a longer loop length. Now we want to dial up to a number 7, which is all the way out. Now you're going to need to hold your needle vertically as much as possible, and I'm tilting mine so it's a little awkward, but the longer the stitch length, the more important it is for you to hold it vertically, or the longer the loop length. You just bring this row in around the first row that I put in there, the light brown. This isn't even as tight as I need to have done it at this angle. It's a little harder to see exactly where my needle's going in. So you want to make it really tight, because for sculpturing you want it to be really full. Now we've gone all the way around and we've filled it in. You might want to make a couple of more rows there than I did. We want to cut the threads and we're ready to do the fun part. Well, let's turn it over and look. Now there we go, and you can see that my light brown is in there. It's over to the side, and we can now clip it. Okay, now I have taken the fabric out of the hoop and flipped it around so that I have my dimensional part on the top. This allows me to get to it a little closer with my scissors so that I can trim my cattail and make it really pretty nice and rounded. Okay, so we're going to take our scissors, and first we're just going to cut down the side. And this allows you to get a nice smooth side because you're clipping close to the stitching there. Now you want to get that out of your way so you can see what you've done. Now we want to turn it and go down the other side. Now this is like when you were a kid and you made a pom-pom and you trimmed it off so that it was all nice and even. Same technique. You want to clip the sides first, and then we'll just kind of go around the end, and you want to clip close to that stitching. And you're trimming the ends off the loops, basically. So let's go around the end. You'll notice that I'm trimming the sides before I ever touch the top. You can blow it so to get that fuzz out of the way. Now I want to turn my scissors and put them almost horizontal and just cut the top off the loops on the top. I get that out of the way so I could see what it looks like. Now, we have a nice rounded shape that looks like almost like a real cattail in nature. And now we're ready to go to the last step. Now we're ready to do our last technique, which is overstitching. Now we're going to do these little star flowers, and we want to look at the basket and decide randomly where we would like to space them. We have our medium needle, and it's rolled all the way out to the number 7 setting. This gives us a nice long loop length. We're going to just mash into the center where we want it to be and pull the thread all the way through. Then we're going to just stitch out stitches that are about 1/2 inch long and stitch back. Now that one's a little long. Let's pull that down. And we can just go about 5 little petals all the way around, or 6. This one's kind of big, so we may want to go 6 on this. And we're stitching over our leaf here. Want to make sure we have plenty of slack in our yarn. Now we have 6 little petals, and we're just going to pull the thread up and cut it off flush. Now these are easy to do, and you can place them wherever you want, all over your flower basket. And there they are. Aren't they pretty? Now, after you've finished all of the little flowers that you want to add to it, you can just check and see if there's any clipping that you would want to do, and your project is finished. Now it's ready to make a beautiful framed piece of artwork for your family room or your living room, or you can make a pillow out of it. Now, these advanced techniques, as I told you, are easy to learn, and you'll become an expert just with a little bit of practice. And for more techniques and more patterns, be sure to pick up the Beyond the Basics of Punch Embroidery by Linda Broman, because it has a lot more techniques in it for you, including ribbon punching and some things that we didn't have time for. Now I'm going to show you some more perfect punch projects. And this will give you some more ideas to decorate your home and your wearables. And remember, it's easy and fun. Thank you for joining me today.